straighten out.
I think so. I think we're ready to go.
I put it on the agenda every week.
Do we have any corrections or additions to the agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Public comment. There are none. We'll move on to approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Make the motion.
Do I have a motion, do I have a second?
If you get a second, I'll second.
Got a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried, okay, planning area boundary update.
Good morning. Great. Jim Warner, I'm going to give you an update quickly on the planning area boundary. Earlier this year, I came in contact with you about changes to planning that came out of the 2020 census. We've updated and adjusted our urban area boundary that came from the census, and really what follows next is update to the TMA boundary for our Metropolitan Planning Organization for MAPA, and corresponding the boundary for RPA-18. We brought the draft to you a couple months ago, and this is just as a reminder where we sat. So city boundaries had changed. What you see on the outside, that solid black line is the TMA boundary. Blue areas, of course, are corporation boundaries, and then green is just a representation of what's available from the census, following census block geographies. Iowa DOT's guidelines to us are to, as much as possible, use that geography because we're going after population as we go through this process for approval through Iowa DOT. So you'll note in the upper right, Underwood had grown into our TMA boundaries, and not really noticeable here, but Crescent overlap with the census boundary and the TMA. There was a little bit of their northwest boundary, which was outside of the TMA.
Recording in progress.
So the updates that we've made, the proposed 2020 TMA boundary shows up a little bit like purple here on the screen for you. And that adjusted urban area boundary from 2020 is just inside. So a couple real quick rules. The TMA boundary has to include all of that adjusted urban area boundary, which it does. And we're given some leeway to make sure that that area that we choose makes sense for planning. So we made the changes. A recommendation here, I'll just shift to it, maybe a little bit easier to see. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you want
The map, yes, please. Great, thank you. So for Crescent, we added one block, and just that's the shape the geography takes. It's going to draw Crescent in there quickly. But this area right here is one additional census block. For Underwood, we just removed about 6 census blocks that fell along the interstate there, and the upper northeast corner. And kind of some more conversation, not directly related here, but a portion of Pottawattamie County that fit, or Cass County, pardon me, around Smith, it fit part of our boundary, so we removed that from Nebraska. And then finally, as it relates to you, and thank you for the conversation with both Mills and Pottawattamie County. One of the clear edicts from Iowa DOT is make sure a roadway is either within or outside of that TMA boundary, as you set it up. So we've buffered Applewood Road such that all of the extent along the boundary, and then as it comes into Pottawattamie County, would be within the RPA-18 as opposed to the TMA. And that just allows for it's classified as a local road right now, but if there would be future desire to use federal funds, we could maintain continuity in one region.
Is all of L35 in there? Or?
It is. Yes, and we did maintain all of L35 within. Yes, please. Great. Okay. Any questions about the map that we're layout on the selection of boundary. Great. So what that results in, and then the resolution that you'll be voting for approval today and signing is a joint resolution between RPA-18 and the MAPA MPO. And really, these are the numbers that Iowa DOT is going to use to change distributions of funding funds or funding otherwise. Those changes basically bring in that one block of Bike Crescent transfer 71 people from the RPA to the MPO, and then the corresponding populations are reported there as Iowa DOT is laid out. So that would be our recommendation, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any about the process that we went through. Okay, wonderful. So next steps, again, this joint resolution for signature today will present the same material to the MAPA board of directors tomorrow. And once both of those are done and we have signatures, it'll be sent to Iowa DOT for approval. I guess if there are no further questions, I'll turn it back over to
I'll recommend approval, but for the technical committee. I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Now you need a motion for the. Hey, I can do that today. I'll make a motion to approve the boundary line adjustment.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Okay, long range transportation plan.
So by now you're all fairly familiar with these goals that you helped refine and prioritize for us. So we did map exercise last time. We've done the same exercise at a couple of other events. We went to a Shelby County Trails Board. They had a bike rodeo for kids, and we had a station for kids to decorate their bike helmets if they wanted to. They had a drawing for bike helmets, bike helmet fitting, and the library was there. And we had a table, so we had one section for kids, and then we had another section where we talked to parents about the long range transportation plan. We brought our maps and stickers, and we had people give input in a way similar to how you did. We also did the same thing at the Pottawattamie County Board of Supervisors earlier this month. Got some good feedback there, and then we're planning tomorrow to go to Harrison County, to go to Logan to do the same exercise, and then most likely in October we'll get Shelby County and Mills County Board of Supervisors meetings. A lot of the input centered around safety concerns, things like intersections, railroad crossings, things like that. And also a good portion of comments related to economic vitality. A lot of people seem to want more bike trails and improving access to certain locations, paving gravel roads or building a road where it would create a shortcut, that type of thing. So basically better access to communities to improve economic development. A lot of the comments about future needs or concerns, a lot of them had to do with railroad safety, railroad crossings or underpasses, things like that. A lot of people want to see more options, especially for trucks, truck routes, things like that. And then a lot of concern about bridges that need to be replaced or rehabbed. So. And you'll have, if you got a handout on the LRTP, it's sort of like a flyer that we give out to people at events. On the back, there's a QR code, there's a link, there's a survey. So we'd be really thrilled if you could take a moment to do that. It's pretty easy, pretty quick. And there's a map where you can actually pinpoint exactly the location where you have concerns and then enter what type of concerns those are. It's more accurate, I guess, than our paper maps. But spread the word, and we'd love to get your input.
And so why is this important? So other transportation managers have had their hands in their long transportation plan. This is our hand at this long range transportation plan. we're just trying to disseminate and receive data and information from the public, the people that use the roads. I'm over at the map offices most of the time, except when I come to visit John in his new facility now.
Sign would be nice, by the way.
And so I don't get out to all the counties as much as I would like. And so that's why we're really requesting, hey, if you could share it to your board members, to any of the committees you guys attend, or to the general public, let them take that survey and let us get some additional input. And throughout the year or throughout our next coming meetings, we'll report back and keep you posted on what information it is that we're getting to help develop our long-range plan. So why is this important? We typically use our long-range plan to help justify our transportation improvement program, right? So how do we invest the small amount of federal dollars that we have within these 4 counties, right? And so right now, what we're hearing is a lot of information and a lot of people discussing safety as being one of the priorities. And we're fortunate enough to be in a very interesting inflection point where the secondary roads is going through their Safe Streets for All grant, I guess,
Safety
grant
action
award or
Yeah.
project.
Yep.
And so in the coming months, those are gonna be interesting conversations to have on how do we treat some of these dual concerns between what happens in the county, where I assume, I'm just taking a stab in the dark, some of the crash potential happens on running off the road, right? Speeding tends to be some of the bigger concerns. But once you get into these smaller communities, these small towns, that speeding problem becomes a big barrier for local communities trying to just get from one side of the street to the other, right? And so what is that interplay? And I totally understand secondary roads are trying to do a lot. So how do we maximize our efforts to both meet the needs of the general public and access and safety, but also accommodate this kind of through route movement for some of our truck traffic and some of our access needs or mobility needs. So that's where we're going with this. That's why it's important. That's why you'll see a lot more information about this. And if you see us at the county, come say hi to us. We'll be around doing some of these tours as much as we can. But it's only 1, 2 of us that are really working a lot on this right now. And so as much as you guys can help, totally appreciate it. And I think this is going to lead to our next discussion that's coming up.
And by the way, I want to point out, we did bring our maps back, the one for current issues, the one for future concerns. So if there was something you thought about in the meantime, or you didn't get a chance to participate last time, we can explain how the map exercise works. It's pretty simple. You can also just tell us and we can write it down. But yeah, we want to capture everything we can from you guys. So our next topic is the bylaws, which have not been updated in a really long time. And there's a copy. Most of you got pick one up. So the existing copy was adopted in 1994, so a long time ago. There's some outdated terms and, for example, a federal bill called IC was mentioned, so we updated things like that. It's basically the function of the bylaws is to provide some sort of framework that's officially designated as how the policy board operates. And so we have some notes in there. You'll see a lot of red where we certain things just basically need to be revised and updated. And also the Iowa DOT issues guidelines on what types of things need to be included. So we're taking that into consideration as well. So we're changing the term to designate the association to the officially accepted RPA-18, it's the Regional Planning Affiliation 18, that's the Iowa DOT term. It appears a lot, so it's important to get that right. And then the Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act is outdated, and so we just replaced that with current federal transportation legislation just to prevent issues if it changes again. So the first section talks about geographic areas, and the original text basically does not mention that the part of Pottawattamie County to be included is the non-urbanized area. So we made that update. It just mentions Pottawattamie County, and it's important to note that because the urbanized area is part of the MPO, not the RPA. So we updated that. And then we kind of made a list for future topics to think about, the rules for quorum and attendance. Right now we need 3 policy board members, and attendance has to be in person, voting has to be done in person. So that's something you guys can think about, and maybe we can revisit in the future if we want to make any adjustments to those things. Yeah, so if there are any thoughts or suggestions, you can also let us know if you take it with you and look it over. You can let us know if there's something.
You had an edit for the urbanized area, is that in the packet we were given? I don't think it is.
It should be, yeah. In front of me.
Is that geographical limits?
Yeah.
Should be under section 1.04. If it's not, we'll fix it. I think we're not voting on this, we're just discussing. And I think our strategy is, what are some of the very simple things? Right now, we just give you a red line of changing the name from RTA to RPA. And that happens 64 times within the document. The other part is just reflecting what the actual geography is for the RPA. That seems very non-committal, not a big deal. Let's just clean it up. So we went ahead and did some of this cleanup work, should be reflected here. I think the next set of discussions that we're gonna get into are really gonna look at how we manage this committee, just in terms of quorum, right? When the winter months come in, sometimes we have a little bit harder time reaching quorum and getting things through, which we hate to avoid or we want to avoid. And then 2, one of the concerns brought to us by Iowa DOT was, how is this committee or this board meeting the needs of smaller communities? And so that's gonna force us to look at how we do membership. And those are gonna be more important discussion points for us to have a shared understanding, but we're gonna save it for another day.
Do we also need edits, like population of Harlan? That's it. It depends how you draw the boundaries, right? Wasn't there, depending on.
Yeah, last census was 4893, so by definition, we're, 100.
Wasn't there a different boundary that you're above that?
They had their census area boundary and the urban area boundary, and they were different.
So do we need to find if it's census or urban area?
So is one of those
In our
over
policy.
5,000 now, or are they both under 5,000?
Urban, I think, is over.
It's because, if I remember right, and quote, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, we need to get voted off the island. We can
No,
vote.
I'm not saying, but it seemed like it was based on urban area clusters.
Yeah.
And there was like housing developments that weren't contiguous, is that the word they used?
Right,
Yep.
right.
To that area, and that's the reason why it fell below the 5,000.
But we don't define where that 5,000 comes from. It just says 5,000.
Correct.
It probably should define urban area or census tracts.
Yeah,
Then after we do that, we probably better look at Missouri Valley.
yeah, and I think that's some of the homework we're gonna do, right? We're gonna take, just to look under the hood, if you will. We're gonna do a little bit of homework before we bring this to you, regarding membership and quorum. Basically, we need to do an inventory, what's in, what's out, based on the different numbers, based on different definitions, right? So if we just use the urbanized area boundaries, this is what the composition of this board would be, right? Who would be in versus out. And then we'll give you a couple of different looks. If we do it this way, this is what it would mean, right? But again, we're not ready for that just yet. We need to do a little bit more homework on our end and truly understand what that means, and provide additional guidance as much as we can. And then we'll have the fun discussion and go through it. Hopefully do a couple exercises to try to hone in on what's key and important to everyone here, and then go forward. But more to come. So this is pretty easy, nonchalant. You guys don't have to vote on any of this right now. But you know, the next time you're gonna see a whole lot more red in the document. And in the meantime, if you go through this, if there are areas that you have questions on or you'd like to discuss further, happy to do that.
So we kind of reviewed our project selection criteria a little bit. And this is a summary of what was used last time to rank projects. So functional classification, average annual daily traffic, pavement condition and age, bridge factors, crash history, regional significance, local match, and whether or not it affected more than one jurisdiction. And so the green shows that it's a higher ranking than the gray, and basically different scoring criteria were assigned, whether it was categories like good, fair, poor, or numbers, and then the projects were ranked according to those factors. So we're coming up to call for projects again in October. So this is something that we wanted to update if necessary, get your thoughts on how you feel. Do we want to proceed the same way? Do we want to make changes?
I'll give an example. As we do our safe streets and roads for all planning, we're gonna come up with a prioritized set of project lists. That's one of the requirements in the application of that grant funding. There will be a similar thing, I'd imagine, for each of the counties. So we would want to figure in, there's probably a more appropriate way to look at that safety evaluation for a project as opposed to just that crash history. So I think that might be something that we bring in. It might be different between counties because each county is going to have a separate local road safety plan, and we would want to respect that as well. But I think as we have more data and we take a closer look at it and we do it consistently, I think some of these could definitely take a next step to finding those appropriate projects.
As far as safety is concerned, are you looking at like geometrics of a road as well? Like, for example, if it's a narrow shoulder, no
Yep.
shoulder, curvy, no super elevated curves, those type of things, are they gonna factor in towards it?
They will, for the MPO, where you've probably heard traditionally, there's a high injury network, which is just the number and type of crashes and the outcomes, how many people are killed or have a serious injury. Our consultant for, again, just within the MPO is also defining a high risk network, and that's where they would get those characteristics. It'll be a little different because how we look at things in Nebraska is different than Iowa. Iowa in some cases has a richer data set to pull from. So I can't speak for what each of the counties are doing with their consultant, but reading through the invite for the workshops we have upcoming, it seemed to me like, yes, those would be things that would be considered. Definitely looking at what are those focus areas, those emphasis areas that would be considered during the stakeholder work group. So,
Because I know, like from the DOT's point of view, based on crash history, the majority of crashes are either centerline crossovers or road vehicles leaving the roadway. So we are trying to push centerline and edgeline rumbles on every 2-lane highway.
Yep.
Eventually.
Yep.
But as we're resurfacing them, that's kind of the goal.
Okay.
Put them in place.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely a similar process that Nebraska undertook that didn't impact a lot of our roadways in our MPO, but looked at those best practices. It said just that, typically we were at a 24-foot top. They just found the fund that they allowed for the funding to be applied for expansion to a 28-foot top. So adding those hardened shoulders, extending them, and adding the shoulder, and I think center line rumble strips. I'm not quite sure, but doing it all consistently the same way. So yeah, it would be, I think that there would be application. And
So we would add not just the fact that it has narrow shoulders, but whether or not we are correcting that, and the change in the mitigating factors that give us the, what is it? There's the list of criteria that how much that particular
Yes.
improvement would change the
crash modification
crash
factors.
modification
Yeah.
factors.
Again, I'm getting well ahead of what each of the county
Yeah.
engineers are doing
And
with
so
their
we
their
would want
plans.
to put that, include that in our criteria.
If
If we
can.
include how
If
narrow
we-
the bridges are, we
Well,
better say, are
yeah.
you changing?
Yeah, and so one of the things that we've noticed in the last tip, when we did this ranked choice, people were asking, well, what are the numbers? And based on this information, there's a dearth of information, right? There's very different functional classes that we're trying to compare, right? And so how do we make this application, one, easy to navigate and use, and then two, apply the appropriate questions to gain a richer understanding of what the project is, right?
Yeah, and then
Right?
on the,
Because if you're just simply resurfacing, or if you're resurfacing and adding the rumble strips, adding the center lines, like those are, in my mind, a little bit different, right?
exactly, how much weight do you put to a 40-year-old road that has a poor ride
Mhm.
compared to adding a paved shoulder that is going to be a good safety factor?
Right? And so that's the nuance that we're starting to navigate. Look, we're not gonna get it perfect this first time. We're trying to get this done before the call opens up in October. And hopefully we'll be able to piecemeal and work through some of these conversations to understand more. But I think for this round, what we're really trying to gain better understanding is the preference within this group for the following. These are the criteria we currently list, and we're just trying to get a consensus on what should be the priority, right?
I think that's great, and because it still throws it back to the membership to vote on it. If they can see that this project is actually, even though it rates less, might have more importance for that county or city at that point, then it can still be overridden. And that's good.
And we're trying to walk our walk and really lean into this safety. Everything we're saying and doing is with regards to safety. We're in lockstep with the state. We're in lockstep with our urbanized area side. We're really trying to push this safety. And so how do we enhance projects that enhance this safety? And it is really responsive to what we're hearing at this time as well. Safety seems to be one of the key concerns.
So next, we have a small survey for you to take. If you want to scan the QR code, we'll have you score or rank the criteria, the projects, the criteria that are used.
I'm not,
I
don't,
think it's
I
take a
took my
picture, but then after
scanning
that, I
code.
don't know.
I don't have the
John, how does it
the
work?
app anymore.
I just point my camera at it and it gives me a website to click on.
It should come up
And if you don't
automatically.
have,
Yeah, these are some
Take a
mentee.
photo of it.
Well, it says menti.com, but it's not doing it.
Lindsay can vote for me.
Took a little while to about
Oh,
22nd.
maybe I have to sign in.
My
camera sucks.
And then you'll get the little
There you go.
Alright,
See
so
the
once
word.
you go to your smarter than that.
Go to your camera and then.
If you go to
You
the
don't have to
actual
take a
poll, it
picture,
should
you
be
just
able to give you a code.
Uh-huh.
Say no internet.
Oh, it's not showing a code.
I have no internet. Do we have a?
There should be like a guest. There's a guest.
Yeah, we don't have much for cellular,
I took it
should be
off.
guest Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Here several years ago and I haven't put it back on.
You got the QR code again?
Mia, just add a new
County
slide.
Roads, yes.
You can go back out
Okay,
for a
so we
sec.
have to get onto there.
There should just be like an instruction slide template that you can add and that'll have like, I don't know
Just
why
put
it's
me
not
down for
showing the
strongly
code.
disagree
Usually
for
shows a code.
everything.
Got me too.
Oh, I need
Disagree,
that.
it's
Got me
ranking,
too.
Oh, got you too? Okay.
Yeah.
ranking,
Charlie.
we're ranking what our
Can
priorities
you put
are.
that?
Oh,
code
there
up
it is.
there?
I was thinking here.
You gotta be smarter than phones.
Yeah, well, that'll never happen.
Yeah, because there's also like a website and a number that you can enter in instead of scanning the QR code.
Okay, I can't.
You have restroom.
Out those doors and move on.
There we go.
We've been asked to sign up, Chris.
Put this.
No, but I did it once before, so maybe it could ask me this, but no. Because when I went to it, it said the Menti thing, I just signed into my phone and then.
There we go.
There.
Okay,
So
so if the
now
QR code's not working, then there's a website and a poll code.
it's not logging me out.
Well, I think because we edited the presentation. So if you had it properly working before, I just totally kicked you out. Now you gotta do it.
So now we gotta start over.
It's gonna make it complicated for everybody.
Okay.
Open Q&A.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so if you've got like that green arrow, then you're in the right spot. And it'll move over automatically once we show the poll. Just gonna wait for everybody to get logged in first.
All set.
Says it's waiting for you.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay. Functional.
what is people doing the thing already?
As far as I got.
Allow me to score it.
Yes.
So now we can.
So now you can score just from strongly disagree to strongly agree. It's kind of not really an agree disagree so much as prioritization. So if you give it a 5, then that's a high priority. If you give it a
There you
1, then
go.
that's a low
Now you're.
What was the code?
priority. The code. Oh shoot, I had written it down. See, it's being weird. Okay,
Oh, there it is.
13,
Fine.
27, 21.
Now it says waiting for presenter again.
Yeah, we're gonna
Oh,
bounce around a little bit.
Oh, we're
here.
bouncing.
Oh,
I said all my stuff, I keep forgetting what I have.
Tell you what.
take some Dramamine for this ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay,
You're right.
what's the code you guys need?
13, 27, 12, 1.
Yeah, that sounds right.
There we go.
Skills.
And it's just menti.com, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's meant to meter.
Meter.com.
Well, no, just if it scores, say you want to score a pavement, should somebody with more.
Yeah, so
traffic-
give it a 5 if you think it should be the highest priority, give it a 1 if you think it should be a lower priority.
Kick us
just-
out Big time
Yeah.
because,
Is that it then?
oh no, most of ours compared to the one that Steve had on there, I mean, we wouldn't even come close if you go by that.
Cause you hit
That's
submit
what-
on
I
your
mean,
I
it's
hit
still-
submit, so
yeah,
then
you
we're
should
gonna,
hit-
It's
okay.
gonna be
Once you hit
represented
submit,
on
you
its
should
own
be good.
Okay.
merits, and that's the way it should be.
Hopefully they were the right.
Yeah, hopefully they're
Yeah.
right.
I think
You know.
the overridden.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're saying regional equity ought to be up there. I couldn't resist again. Wouldn't be a meeting if I didn't say that.
I'll vote twice for that, John.
I got it.
All right, everybody gone in or is anybody still
Someone
ranking?
Be smarter than.
Everybody's done? Cool. Excellent. Okay, so this is what our results are looking like. So it seems like pavement condition and crash history are our top 2 priorities. Followed by regional significance and ADT. And then multi-jurisdictional functional classification local match. So we'll be able to take this information back and kind of incorporate it into adjusting of those project scoring criteria using this information. So this will be super helpful.
Appreciate it.
How will you weight those? I guess I don't.
How do they weight it?
Yeah,
So what it does is it kind of takes it's like a ranked
no,
choice.
for the application.
Oh, for the application?
Yeah.
So we'll have to figure out how we wanna do that ranking. So basically what this is gonna help us do is we'll be able to take these in priority order and say that we'll weight crash history as a higher value criteria than say local match, for example. So this is just kind of assigning the weighting to each of these categories. And then kind of how we measure each of those categories, we'll have to come back for another discussion.
I mean, there's safety funds out there. I hate to
Exactly.
point these funds towards safety when we already have funds available to us for that purpose.
Exactly. If you need to go more on the safety side, you need more money.
There's
flowing
other,
in.
yeah, there's other funds, and these
Right.
aren't, they're earmarked for safety, and these aren't specifically earmarked for safety, so I hate to see these turn over into that.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that even if it isn't like a safety specific project, there are safety factors that can be worked into almost every project, right? So,
How does the functional classification weigh into it when we're required to, they're required to be on a federal aid route? We can't do it on a local route or farm market only. So would that end up not affecting the process at all? Or in the city?
I think
they
it's
have a
like
different
within,
system.
so there's a couple different federal classifications that are eligible, so I think it's how we rank those amongst each other.
They have to be
Arterial versus
major, no?
collector.
They'd be minor collectors.
Can you do minor collectors?
Yeah.
In the urban.
Yeah, so like arterial is higher ranked than collector roads, for example, but they're still major roadways. But yeah, maybe that's something we need to discuss at the next
Yeah,
one.
maybe.
Kind of figure out how we want to incorporate that. And if it does turn out that it's not as critical, then maybe it's something that we can just pull out and just have it be an eligibility yes or no question. And then it doesn't factor into the ranking itself.
I don't think it comes out because the design standards change when you're jumping, you know, arterial roads can have different design standards than we would for collectors. I don't know that it should come out. There's really not that many arterials out there anyway in any of our systems. I think the only ones we got are really the DOT transfers. That's how you got yours, right? L20. If they're showing.
That's rated as a major
Is
collector.
that 183?
Yeah.
Yeah, L20 is they call it an arterial.
And
It's not.
what you guys just voted on in terms of, in terms of the TMA boundary, the next step is Iowa DOT is gonna release the latest functional classification system based on everyone else's boundaries. So we'll hopefully be bringing that to you all once we have that data and information. And then we'll break it down for all the counties so that we can see where and what we have. And it'll be fun. Good times. We'll give you data instead of just trying to memorize which roads are which. We'll try to get the data and bring it and present it to you all. That's my promise to you all and the work they're gonna have to do. So it's easy for me to promise. It's harder for them to accomplish. So
Sign it in blood. Right? Yeah.
Honestly, it would be a lot easier if you took the terms arterial and collector away and just said it's either federal eligible or not.
I'm not, yeah.
That would-
And we'll look at that.
Yeah, I mean, that would,
Because
Clear
that's
a lot of
the only thing that counts there.
Yeah.
Really. Because the classifications in urban areas, they're different than the counties, and so they don't mean the
Right.
same thing.
That might.
I think the
L20 is not
remnant,
a arterial.
Yeah.
It's not.
the
It was-
remnant
It
behind
was converted.
I think it was considered an arterial when it was a DOT route.
Right.
And then when
now-
transferred to the county, it should be a collector.
Yeah, and they always have been.
Yeah.
When.
Why would it get
in the
downgraded?
agreement.
I don't
Do you have?
know.
There's a DOT equal.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
That's it.
I said, we're being recorded. Great.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I think that's a.
That was John Rasmussen.
Yeah, and I think it might be just a remnant for our staff or our purposes to just ensure that it's federally eligible.
Yeah,
And we'll look at that. We'll come back, hopefully next month, we could come back with some initial looks at this. We won't get it right the first time, I promise. but we can start working down through some of these, adopt some changes in October and see how projects come out.
And I know that one of the other things we were discussing when we went through this project selection process last time was the benefit of maybe doing like a scoring criteria over just a ranking situation so that we can assign a numerical score to each project as opposed to just comparing it amongst other projects that are submitted in that given year. So that's something that we can probably look at as well to try and figure out how we want to assign some numerical value to these scoring criteria.
And so with that, that's just, hey, more's coming on this. I'll give you a little teaser. We do intend to change the application this year. Our intent is to use ArcGIS and let you all submit your projects through ArcGIS Survey 123. Basically, we're gonna have a map and you just click where your project is, try to make it easy, and then ask a lot of clarifying questions, and then use that information to overlay some of the Iowa DOT, right? So that initial question of functional classification, you guys don't have to worry about that. As long as you have the line correct, we'll do it on the back end.
Can you get that information from the Service Bureau map?
Can we, Scott?
You can get it off the Iowa DOT maps, just go to Iowa DOT maps and type in federal functional classification. It'll show you the map of your county.
Yeah, but it won't give us we already have the project map identified on the Service Bureau TPMS tool.
Are you looking for the
the
classification?
TPM, yeah, the
No,
TPMS.
I'm just looking for the link, the description of the project and the whole bit. You just
We
roll it
wouldn't
over
be-
like we do.
Yeah. We are having trouble trying to extract that data and information from TPMS outside of TPMS.
I see.
It's an ongoing problem. We've been working with Zach over at Planning Bureau to try to gain additional access and wherewithal with that. But the systems are not compatible and easy to use right now.
And I understand why that is, because like, for example, we have an Iowa DOT 5-year program, and we have an Iowa DOT 5-year program map that shows all of our state projects, what year they're in, color coded, whether it's a bridge structure or pavement. And I don't know why the county couldn't do the same thing through the Service Bureau.
Yeah, and
Because the
maybe that's-
information's there, it's just a matter of activating it or however you gotta do it. And maybe it's something where
Our
they
map
could
is already
contact Mark
there, we
Hanson
don't
too,
do
maybe
it.
he can do it, because that's who does our maps. Okay.
They'd have to extract it out of all of our data.
For our financial data solutions, up at Spencer has worked with the Service Bureau 4 or 5 years ago and made it possible for us to export our data from solutions into the annual report.
Got it.
And it took a while. It took several years to get that negotiated and get it done, but it's really good once you got it there.
Okay, we'll look into
Maybe.
what we could do.
Keep working on it with the Service Bureau.
Okay.
It would be handy because we've already identified the limits of the project.
Within your county 5-year plan.
The thing that I use our maps for is I'll share it with our maintenance department so they know kind of what's being planned for the next 5 years. And I'll also share it with our paint crews, so we're not out painting a roadway that's gonna get resurfaced. I'll also share it with the public. There's maps hanging up at the office in Atlantic, so people come in and say, oh, I see we're gonna have a project coming up in 2 years, whatever. I mean, it's helpful for sure.
Oh,
Because I mean, like Nebraska doesn't have it. It's just moving the metro.
and I
More to
think,
come.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's good to share. I can definitely share some of those websites that you mentioned, Scott, if that goes out in the minutes, just links to the Iowa DOT site. I can't you'll know the access to the TPMS side. I guess it would be interesting to see, since they're different data managers, presumably they're gonna say the same thing, but that would also be a good opportunity to just to double check, make sure that they are in agreement.
Cool. For our projects, when we submit a project for letting, so to submit the plans, we have to have the beginning and ending points of those projects identified.
Yep.
For federal aid projects, it's very specific that if you go outside of that area when you're building the project, you're violating the agreement.
Yep.
And it can cause you not to get reimbursement.
Yeah.
Of funding, so they have to be precise, or
Sure.
we go outside of the limits a little ways, and it would be easier for us to do it that way than to make up a new description of what the project is, and then we have two descriptions. And when we turn it into for a letting, it has to be exactly the way it is on our construction.
And
plan.
that's the request that we've made of the Iowa DOT staff is to have access. And we found that some of the projects came across, but not all of them. So I don't think it was, we'd have to double check whether it was the right start end point and location,
Yeah.
or whether it was just a filtering problem. But that's what we
Common
would,
problem.
yeah.
That of getting the crosswise on the
Yes.
descriptions,
Yep.
and the map doesn't always work. When you go through an urban boundary, it quits.
Yeah.
And there's been projects that I've tried to put that line in there a dozen times, and you let go of the other end of it and it goes, disappears. It's a real pain in the butt. Somebody needs to get it repaired.
Sure.
And if we could make it more important, or make it a priority, maybe we could make it work better on both sides.
Okay, yeah, well, I appreciate that. And I think, like you say, those urban areas, that's even more important now that we've redrawn that urban area boundary, at least for Pottawattamie, but I would presume for other counties and jurisdictions that change, they'd want to make sure that those roadways are correctly reflecting in both TPMS and the Iowa DOT functional classifications.
Okay, any additional business?
Pottawattamie County is having our safety SS4 meeting September 20th, right here, I guess. I think the RPA staff's been invited. And DOT.
I got invited, yeah. I think I hit accept on that.
I think Mills and Harrison, everybody's lined up too, right? You guys got dates for your, are you in this phase
For
two?
the,
Safety thing,
yeah.
SS4,
Ours is
26th.
26th.
When is your state?
I don't remember.
I think, isn't Harrison in the second wave, or are you guys still in the first?
Yeah, we're in the second wave.
Yeah.
Anything further?
We're doing traffic counts this summer in Western Iowa. If you've seen the little black hoses across the road, that's what's going on. Of course, I mentioned this, I think, at a previous meeting, we haven't had a good count since 2016. Because 2020, we were down to count Western Iowa, and it was a COVID year, so the data wasn't very reliable.
So are they still counting?
Yeah.
In Harrison County? Yeah. Okay. They started somewhere in July.
They started counting, I believe, the end of May. And so they're just kind of hopping around from county to county. And they've got West Des Moines to do too. And I think they're up into Carroll as well, and Denison. And so it's not just District 4, it's just the fringes of District 4 as well.
And if there are additional requests, we can look at what we could do with that. But by additional request, I know Iowa DOT has access to streetlight data. It's not the greatest in outside urbanized areas. So we would have to play with the system at Iowa DOT, but that's big data. Again, trying to look at captured data from smarter vehicles. Yeah. So if you want some more of that, or you have requests for that, let us know. We'll help you navigate some of those Iowa DOT requests.
Okay, anything else?
In October, at the beginning of October, there's the Iowa Trail Summit in Council Bluffs. If you go to this website, there's information about registration. I think the price goes up after September 20th, the price goes up. So if you would like to attend that earlier, you buy your ticket, the better. There's a guest speaker that's been involved in trails development for something like 20 years. There are different sessions and basically it's about trail development topics, funding, land acquisition, maintenance, everything trails. So if you're interested. And then our next meeting is scheduled for September 11th. And then is everybody happy with this location? Should we stick with this while?
Scott will get here.
Absolutely.
I know how to get here now.
Sign will be up.
Why don't we get the sign? Sign will be up.
We appreciate John for accommodating us.
I will need to confirm it on my calendar, I guess.
How long you been here, John?
About 3 months.
About 3 months, and then you're no longer at the building downtown? Nobody's in there?
So turn it down.
Really?
Nice facility.
It is nice.
I will give a tour after this.
Okay, we don't have anything
He
further.
intends to be here in September then.
We'll wait to confirm with John. Yeah, we'll send out information. And then call for projects will be in October.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move, Winquist.
Second, Rasmussen.
Okay, motion second, all in favor, say aye. Bye.
You can say bye.